Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to stand on a quiet forest road, knowing that 5 people walked the same path and never took another step again? No screams, no footprints, no bodies. They simply evaporated. Tonight we're entering one of the strangest, most unsettling places in modern history, the Bennington Triangle. A region so silent, so isolated, that even experienced hunters refuse to step inside after sunset. Some say there's something in that forest, a presence that watches from behind the trees. Others believe the land itself swallows people whole. This isn't a ghost story. This isn't an urban legend. These disappearances are real, documented, and still completely unexplained. 5 people vanished here between 1945 and 1950. Not in the middle of a storm, not during a war. No, they disappeared on normal days. Days when the forest looked calm, harmless even. Until it didn't. Tonight, I'll show you the exact paths they walked, the final words they said, and the last places they were ever seen. And with each case, the mystery gets darker, stranger, and more impossible to explain. So whatever you do, don't look away. Because the deeper we go, the more horrifying it becomes. And by the end of this video, you might start wondering something terrifying. What if the forest isn't empty, and never was? December 1st, 1946. 18-year-old Paula Weldon, a bright college student, tells her roommate she's going for a short hike. No phone, no bag, no coat, just her red jacket. Witnesses say she walked confidently toward the long trail, a path she had never taken before. A path locals warned outsiders not to walk alone. The last person to see her was an elderly couple. They said Paula walked ahead of them, turned a corner, and when they followed seconds later, she was gone. Not running, not hiding, just gone. Search teams came with dogs, trackers, helicopters. They found nothing, not one thread of her jacket, not one footprint. And this is the part investigators still cannot explain. The trail was muddy that day. Anyone walking there should have left tracks. Paula left none. Some hikers later told police they had seen something strange. Lights flickering deep in the woods at night, like lanterns moving without a person holding them. Others said they heard a girl calling for help. But when they followed the voice, the forest seemed to twist, leading them in circles until the sound simply vanished. Paula's disappearance shook the entire state. Her case became so chaotic, it actually led to the creation of the Vermont State Police. But even with new officers, new equipment, and thousands of man-hours, Paula was never found. It was as if the forest opened its mouth and swallowed her whole. Just 5 years earlier, in 1945, a seasoned local hunter named Mitty Rivers led a small group into the same woods. He knew every trail, every sound, every shadow. If there was one person who couldn't get lost here, it was him. But that afternoon, as the group was returning home, Mitty walked a few steps ahead, just a few steps. He turned a bend in the path, still talking loudly to the others, and when they rounded the corner moments later, he wasn't there. No panic at first. They thought he'd wandered off to scout something. But minutes became hours. Hours became days. Soon, over 300 volunteers searched for him. They combed the woods so thoroughly that rescuers said, if even a glove had been dropped here, we would have found it. They found nothing. Mitty was carrying a rifle, never recovered. He was wearing bright hunting gear, never found. And again, no footprints despite soft ground that should have preserved every step. But the strangest detail? One searcher reported hearing something move just behind the tree line. Heavy footsteps that stopped whenever the rescue team stopped, as if something or someone was watching them. One of the search dogs refused to go deeper into the woods, pulling backward with its tail between its legs. These were animals trained to face bears, but whatever was there terrified it. Mitty Rivers vanished in daylight. Footsteps still echo in the forest, but none of them are his. Now we move to one of the most disturbing disappearances, not in the forest, but connected to it. December 1949. A veteran named James Tetford boards a crowded bus returning to Bennington. He takes his seat. Multiple passengers confirm he was there at every stop. 3 people remember talking to him. His suitcase was stored under the seat. When the bus arrived at the station, James was gone. The bus had not made any emergency stops. No one had moved past the aisle, and the windows were shut due to freezing weather. His luggage was still in his place. His bus schedule, his ID, everything was there except him. The bus driver insisted James had been on the bus minutes before arrival. Another passenger claimed he saw James sleeping near the back. But when he checked again, the seat was empty. Some locals believe that whatever lurks in the Bennington Triangle doesn't just stay in the forest, it follows its victims, pulls them, lures them, or maybe appears to them. What makes this even more unsettling? James lived in an area bordering the triangle. That morning, he told neighbors something had been tapping on his windows at night, something he first assumed was a branch, until he noticed the marks were too high, far above the reach of any tree. James didn't walk into the woods came for him. And it got what it wanted. October 1950. 8-year-old Paul Jepson sits in his family's pickup truck while his mother feeds pigs at a local farm. She's gone for about an hour when she returns. Paul is gone. The truck door is still locked. There's no sign that he climbed out or walked away. But when search dogs arrive, they do something chilling. They follow Paul's scent in a straight line, directly toward the heart of the Bennington Triangle. Then, suddenly, mid-trail, the scent stops. Completely. As if the boy stepped off the ground and into thin air. Hunters who joined the search later reported hearing strange whistles echoing from the forest, whistles that stopped whenever they shouted Paul's name, not animal sounds, not human either, something in between. Paul's father told reporters that his son had recently become obsessed with the forest, staring at it for hours, saying he wanted to go there. When asked why, Paul replied, "Because the man in the forest asked me to." Authorities dismissed it as childish imagination. Now it reads like a warning. No clothes were found, no remains, no trail. And once again, the familiar pattern returns. A disappearance, straight-line search dog trail. Then nothing. Almost like an invisible boundary or a doorway. Paul vanished inside broad daylight, but whatever took him waited patiently for him to come closer, and he did. 2 weeks after Paul's disappearance, 53-year-old hiker Frida Langer slipped into a stream while walking with a friend. She told him she'd return home, change clothes, and catch up. The distance was short. The trail was visible. She never came back. Massive search teams swarmed the area. Helicopters, soldiers, divers. Her disappearance made national headlines, but like the others, Frida seemed to vanish the moment she stepped out of sight. Here's where her case becomes terrifying. 7 months later, her body was found in a spot that had been searched multiple times. Open field. Visible terrain. No way anyone missed it. But the decomposition was advanced, far more advanced than 7 months. Experts said it looked like she had been dead far longer than she had been missing, and the condition of the body was so strange, the medical examiner couldn't determine a cause of death. Some investigators quietly suggested the unthinkable. Someone kept her alive somewhere hidden, somewhere in those woods. Others believed she had been returned, placed back where she should have been found originally. But by what? Or by whom? Frida is the only Bennington Triangle victim ever recovered, and yet she gives us the least answers. The forest gave her back, but not her story. Let's connect the dots. 5 victims. Different ages, different backgrounds, different circumstances. But the pattern is unmistakable. They all disappeared between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. All were in or traveling toward the same geographic triangle. All left no evidence, no blood, no struggle. Animals refused to search certain areas. Footprints vanished mid-path. Bodies, if found at all, appeared in impossible locations. What does that suggest? One theory claims a serial killer lived deep in those woods, using underground tunnels or abandoned bunkers. But that fails to explain James Tetford vanishing from a moving bus. Another theory says the land contains a geological anomaly, magnetism that disrupts navigation, causes hallucinations, or distorts time. But again, how does that make footprints disappear? Then comes the paranormal side: shadow figures, strange lights, voices mimicking loved ones, claims of a doorway between worlds. Indigenous tribes once called the area the place where the earth eats people. What if the forest isn't haunted by a ghost, but by something older, something that doesn't kill for anger, but for hunger? And maybe the reason none of the cases make sense is because we're trying to explain an inhuman pattern with human logic. In the Bennington Triangle, the impossible isn't rare, it's normal. So what really happened in the Bennington Triangle? A serial killer? A cult? A hidden cave system? A dimensional rift? Or something far more ancient, something that watches from the trees when the fog rolls in? The truth is simple. 5 people went into the forest. Only 1 came back, and she came back wrong. What terrifies investigators today is not the disappearances themselves, but the consistency, the precision, the silence. These aren't random incidents. Something in that region chooses its victims. And here's the most unsettling detail of all. Disappearances in the Bennington Triangle never stopped. They only stopped being reported. Hikers still go missing. Hunters still vanish without leaving tracks. Locals still hear footsteps that stop when they stop. Still see lights in the trees where no one should be. Still feel watched every time the fog rises. So if you ever find yourself in southwestern Vermont, standing at the edge of a quiet forest trail, and you hear a soft whistle between the trees, or footsteps behind you that mimic your pace, or you notice the birds suddenly go silent, turn back immediately, because in the Bennington Triangle, people don't just get lost, they get taken, and whatever takes them is still out there.